Welcome back, everyone. If you're new to the channel, I'm Christina Ray. This video is part 2 of my Inktober series. Let's jump right in. Day 14. This tangle is Prima. We're going to start with a stem and then aura that line, and then draw an oval or a round shape in the middle and give it a little bit of some shading. And then we're going to start dropping down some petals. I start pretty much at the same point at the bottom, and then just get those little petals drawn in there, always going back basically to the same point. And then do that on the other side. And then once you get done with those, you can put little flower flicks or whatever you'd like inside those petals. And then you're gonna do some little fescues coming up out of the top. And this is where it really begins to start looking like the prima ballerina. You can bunch as many of those in there as you'd like, but what a fun little tangle to draw, and it's just so stinking adorable. Something went horribly amiss with this tangle, and it started out when I made a wrong turn and tried to erase it and smudged my paper up like crazy, and so that didn't set the tone for this tangle. But I got started connecting my little orbs to the center with an S shape, and so far so good. Still disappointed with my little smudge, and just figuring though I can probably cover that up. And I guess I was having some issues. I was probably too tired. So having some issues with the step outs, and right here is where I begin to realize something's wrong. I'm not sure how to make it look like the step out, and I'm a little bit befuddled. But I think, okay, I'm gonna go for it. And then I don't even want to talk about what this looks like. But it's not right. It clearly is not right. And so I'm like, well, phooey. What am I going to do now? I can't start over. I'm committed. I am nearly halfway through this huge tangle I'm doing. And what am I going to do with this mess? So I do what any other professional tangler would do. And that is you make do with what you have. And so I'm going to start just drawing in some auras, and really nothing I do makes it look much better, but it's a tangle nonetheless. And I am going to just breathe deep and get over myself and try to move on. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to try to make it look like it was something intentional. You know, that's not too bad, right? Walnuts, you start off with a star in the middle, and you can start right out with pen. I penciled it in and am going to just do an outline around the outside of that star, and then you will connect the peaks of each of this star with a quasi heart shape. It's kind of loose, free-flowing, nothing real rigid about it. And then think heart with this one also, except when you get to the top, we're going to just kind of squiggle right down on into the middle of that heart and just give it a little unique. These are really fun to draw. I really enjoyed making those. So it's just a little abnormal heart. And that is basically walnuts. And again, you can decorate the inside of this however you want. I am going to just give it a stem and, pretend that it's just another flower and not get overly persnickety about it. And then I'm going to get in there with my pencil and do a little bit of shading just down towards the center of the star, and hopefully give it a little bit of depth here. Day 17 is Acropolis, and this is by Joanne Quincy. And what a fun tangle this was. I would really like to play with this a little bit more because I feel I need to perfect it, but it really turned out cool, and I thoroughly enjoyed drawing this one. So you start out with borders, and please excuse my shaky screen. I am trying to make do with wobbly tables in my hotel room, and it's just not playing nice. So anyway, draw out the outer borders. You're gonna aura that line. Pretty straightforward. So I am just following the exterior ring on my tile. Then you start by drawing little C shapes across the top. Leave some room between your C and the outermost border. And keep them fairly evenly spaced. Say maybe about 1/4 to 1/2 inch apart, something like that. And just get all those little C shapes drawn in. You don't want them too close, and you don't want them too awful far apart. Once you have each of those C shapes drawn, you're going to go from the inside and do somewhat of it's almost a petal shape to me. Meet down at the center between both of them. So you want that point between each one to be centered between the two. I think that's your main goal. If you do nothing else, try to keep that point centered between your two C's. Then once you get that done, you're going to aura the shape on the outside. I would try to keep this fairly close. I'm not doing a great job of keeping it tucked in there, but the next step is to make a little V. Keep that point center to the top of each of these shapes. It's almost like we're making little ghosts in here. Do you see them? Little ghosts. Okay, once you get that done, then we are going to start at the point on the inside and then make somewhat of a Y shape. As long as you start the bottom of that Y at your point, then just not overly rigid. You want it to be somewhat smooth, but in essence, it's a Y. And then once we get that done, we're going to go back and aura the wings of the Y. I just make these terms up as I go. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying, but we're gonna aura those and start out at the base of the Y before you flare out. So that I don't know if that makes sense at all, but you're not auraing the baseline, you're just auraing the wings of the Y. I bet some of you didn't realize that a Y had wings. And then the therapeutically tedious part is darkening these all in. I am choosing to darken in the center of each, and then I am going to darken in the interstice of each of the Y's, right where this triangle is. And for my shading, I am going to shade just outside of this border on the top and the bottom so that it appears as though it is coming up off of the page. There's a shadow beneath it. And the best part of this one is shading the leg of each of these Y's, but putting just a little bit just gives this ribbon movement, gives it depth. I'm definitely going to play with this one again. I just had so much fun with this. Day 18 is Zato, and it is by Yuko Takamasu. It is a series of hearts that one is upside down to the other, but yet I'm drawing them as one fluid line. The trick to this is making sure that you pause in the middle because you want that peak of the first heart to be centered. It's hard to explain, but you want those peaks to be exactly in line with each other. So if you focus on that, you're making S's and backward S's, but your goal is to keep those peaks completely in line. Just go slow, practice a few times, but once you get it, oh man, is that fun. I could do a whole page of these. I just really like them. This is where it gets tricky though. So we're going to do the left-hand side of the heart with another little S shape, okay? And then on the bottom heart, you're doing that same stroke on the same side of the hearts and going from the bottom up. Okay, so both of these are done on the left-hand side of the hearts. Okay. Now, from the top of the first S shape we drew, or on the left-hand side of the heart, you're going to start down in between the two and then draw an arch up and attach to the other side of the heart. Okay? And it's hard for me to show you down here, but you're basically going to do the same thing from the left-hand side of that heart and draw that at your bottom. Now we're going to get in there and draw a straight line from the peak of the heart and then just curve it up. This is where the fold of the ribbon turns in to the right and then swoop up. And on the bottom, you're going to do the same thing, jut to the right and swoop down. Everything is starting on the left and moving to the right. And that's probably the best trick to not get too confused with this. Any stroke you're doing appears to be starting on the left and moving to the right. And there it is. What I'm trying to do is identify one side of the ribbon as being darker than the other side. And this can be a little bit of a brain teaser too. So just start one step at a time. Don't try and do it all at once. And I recommend doing the same thing as you go, but you'll notice here I'm showing that also would be the top side of this ribbon and this section here. So if you kind of just try to think about that as a ribbon, how would that work? And then follow that around. It's a really cool tangle. And then on the opposite side, I'm just doing some little random dots, and that just will make it very clear that that is in fact a different side of the ribbon. And then I'm not getting overly complicated with the shading. I'm just going to make the bottom of this tangle a little bit darker so that it appears to be behind the other tangles that are adjacent, just to push it back. Day 19 is another one of my all-time favorites, Knightsbridge, and it is a Zentangle original. And I think I'm going to put this one up here in this corner. I'm going to try to make this look like it's curling back. And the trick to that is just when you draw your lines, start them all at the same point. And as you get closer to the outer edge, you want to get them closer together, because as they move further away from you, they will get smaller in appearance. And then I am curving, basically doing an aura. And as you get back closer to the point, just keep those lines closer to each other, and they will eventually just disappear. You're going to fill in every other one. So I will go in with a little X to identify these are the ones I'm coloring in, and then you alternate on the next row up. And I do that because I have been known to mess this up royally. Then you just begin to fill each one of these in. If you're in a hurry to get a tangle done, don't pick Knightsbridge, but it can be very therapeutic if you just don't want to think. So I fill in the small points of these with a small nib, and then I get in there with my bullet. The larger these are, the easier it is to do with your bullet, but you can fill those in relatively quickly with that Graphic 1 bullet tip. Day 20 is Kahlua by Nina Dreyer Godertz. I'm not really sure. I hope I'm not butchering your name, Nina. And it is another fun tangle. Of course, they're all fun, in my opinion. So this one you are going to do a series of U shapes that flare out at the opening. Then you're going to bring that at each edge back towards the middle, and then a petal shape. So the trick here is keeping these all approximately the same size so that the proportions, it looks right. That's the trickiest part. But if you go slow, you can usually get pretty close. Once you've done doing all of those, you're done. I'm going to do an aura around the entire thing, which will connect all of these pieces to look like they're one element. I'm not really sure why I opted to go ahead and get this orb in there, but I did. You can do all kinds of things with this tangle to create different looks. I look forward to playing with this a little bit and discovering what else I can do. This was a fun one. Most of these tangles were new to me. I've done a few of them, but this has been a great challenge for me to force me to try some new tangles. And the biggest challenge is probably forcing me to make them work together. And some of these I've succeeded, some of them maybe not so much. But nonetheless, it has been so fun. And then I'm just getting in there with a little bit of shading, and there you have it. That's Kahlua. Day 21 is Enoch by Danielle De Palma Mabanta. And this one, for some reason, is a brain teaser for me. You start off with this little series of what I'm gonna call half moon shapes. And then you go around this with small petals. And there may be a rhyme or a reason to how these petals go around here, but I wasn't seeing it. What I did see is that on this outer row, after I aura these, that you start at the center of one of these arches. Start at the center of the petal, and then you're going to alternate touching the center and then going down into the crevice. And so mine did not quite go that way, but I think that's okay. So I'm just trying to, like I said, alternate. And then once again, I'm going to aura each one of those petal shapes just at the top. And I'm going a little rogue on this one because I think I was supposed to aura this on the inside. Ultimately, doesn't matter. I'm having fun. So I go in to try to do the aura on the inside, and then it's just starting to get busy, but that's okay. It's it's beginning to look like a marigold to me, or a mum of some type. So I'm not too broken up about it. So I put a few flower flicks and I'm going to shade it, and there you go. That's Enoch. Cindio is day 22. This tangle is by Stepahnie Jennifer. So you start out with a big orb, and then on either side of it, you're going to do a muka. You can start with that U-shape aura at the bottom, or if you want to show off, you can go ahead and just start that muka and do your aura, whatever you think. Any tangle that has orbs and muka is right up my alley. And then you do just some little petals in here. But it really looks cool when it's done. I like this one. I think you could also do a lot of different things with this, and I will definitely be playing with this one more. And I think I'm going to draw another one behind this because it just looks so lonely, doesn't it? Okay, day 23 is Ruse by Oswald Burbano, and I really don't know what happened here. I started drawing and I know I drew it, but camera failure and didn't realize it at the time. So there it is on the right hand side. I'm not sure what to do here, but anyway, there you have it. Go look that step out up because I didn't catch it. So anyway, here I'm going to be doing Flutch. Again, this was a mind bender for me. Still not exactly sure I get it, and I would have to play with it a little bit more, but it looks to be a grid tangle that alternates. And you do some fun stuff with some petals going in some different directions, and my brain was not grasping it. And I think it's because I didn't play with it beforehand. So I'm trying to correlate what's in the step outs with what I have on my page, and my brain just was not seeing it. But in the end, I don't think it really mattered because nobody's ever going to know that I went the wrong way. The biggest problem was the fact for the remainder of this tangle, I really had no idea what I was doing. Oh my goodness. So anyway, I started over on the other side, I think. And so I'm just drawing a bunch of petals and again, mind bender. So what this taught me is, along with a lot of other tangles that I've done on this project, is that in the end, it doesn't matter. Just get creative. Go ahead and keep attempting to make it resemble what you were taught, but move on. Don't get hung up. Just move on. It's okay. And again, in a project like this, really, I don't believe anybody's ever going to look at it and say, oh, what were you doing here? You messed up. No, because it's not going in the Louvre, I always say. So just really try to enjoy it and don't get too hung up. So by this time, I'm putting in some little flower flicks and I will begin to shade. And I think it looks pretty darn close to the original. Don't you think? Yeah, I think I did a pretty good job. So we're going to move on because that's how I roll. Day 25 is Anamato. This is one of my all-time faves. You start this tangle out with a string, somewhat of a border tangle, so you can do one on each side, and then I am going to aura that line on both sides. So I want a narrow double border here. Okay. And then inside, we are going to snug some ovals or orbs in here. You want them to touch top and bottom, and each of them to touch next to each other. So it's what I call snugging them in. Try to keep your proportions even as you go. And then in between each of those circles, we are going to do another orb and try to snug it in this space as tight as you can. And then in each of those, the step outs show these orbs darkened in. You can do anything you want. There's really no hard, fast rules, but I do think it looks pretty cool this way. And then I'm trying to leave just a little bit of a sparkle at the top. Some of them are a little smaller, so it's hard, but you can always go back in with a white jelly roll and give those a little sparkle. And then, somewhat tedious, but we're going to fill in between these aura'd borders some itty-bitty little orbs, and it almost begins to look like a piece of jewelry. I wouldn't be surprised if this idea wasn't taken from a piece of jewelry. Okay, and then I am going to shade one side of each of these ovals. It's my favorite part of tangling because it's where the magic happens. It's where these really come to life. And there are no real hard, fast rules with the shading on tangles either, which frees you up to just get creative and do whatever you want. It doesn't matter where the light source is coming from, just give it a shade. Okay, so Milia Crown by Susan Yao. And this one also is very reminiscent of a flower, but you're going to start out with a U shape and give it some little curly cues up on the outer edges. And this centerpiece can be as creative as you want it to be, but you're just going to give it a little bit of a stamen in the middle. And then they just do some auras throughout that bowl. And then you finish it up by drawing one line to give it, I can't think, shadow. Isn't that cute? Of course, that one looks like a little ghost. Or sometimes I see what does that remind me of? Day 27 is Camas, and this is by Annette Rumpler. And it's a fun tangle. I like this one when I have a fairly large space to fill, and I have not used it a lot, but it just doesn't give the same effect, in my opinion, in a small space like this. So that is being said, though, from someone who has not played with it a lot, but it's still cool. I do like it and probably should try using it a little bit more often. Day 29 is Oasis. This is by Thomas Pedros, who has probably created some of the best tangles out there. Some of them can be very challenging, but they are absolutely phenomenal. Love his stuff. You are going to start out with what to me looks like a little fish, but it's basically just a little loop, and every other one is going to go a different direction. So I found it easiest to start all of them going the same direction one way, and then I will come back and do them the other direction on the other side. Keep these pretty narrow. And then the next step is to connect these together. So I am going to grab the end and draw a little curvy line that just is going to touch the tip of each of these. So that's one line. And at that point, you're done. And it's up to you how you would like to decorate and get creative with this. So I'm opting for what to me looks like Christmas ribbon candy. It wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't part of the deconstruction with this one, but it just looks good enough to eat. That's how I'm going to proceed. Okay, so I did miss a day. The Try XYZ I missed, and I am really running short of space here, so I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to just fill in a couple spots in here with poke root and call it complete. This has been an absolutely amazing journey, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. just experimenting with all of the new tangles and trying to work them together into one large piece of art has really, really been fun. It's been challenging at times, but it was also fun. So I encourage you all to try this, and you'll be so happy with what you end up with. Anyway, if you have enjoyed watching these videos, please give me a like. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And I hope you join me back again real soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.